And as the governor said, I have worked with Native communities my entire career. I know projects like this are a representation of self-determination and a symbol of sovereignty. President Biden and I also believe that we have a duty to address the deep disparities that persist across Indian country. Disparities that are the result, and truth must be spoken, disparities that are the result of centuries of broken treaties, harmful assimilation policies, displacement, dispossession, and violence. And we have a duty to make sure that all Native people have the opportunity to thrive. To do so, we are committed to make sure all Native communities are places of economic opportunity. In this community, in every Native community across the country, there are people with big dreams for the future, people with the ambition and the aspiration to start a business, own a home, get an education, start a family. But turning a dream into reality requires, when we're talking about economic opportunity, requires access to capital and financial services. Home loans, small business loans, lines of credit. And as we know, many Native communities are cut off from these essential resources. In fact, Native households are more than 3 times as likely to lack access to traditional financial institutions. So to address this inequity, our administration, President Biden and I, have invested more than $500 million in Native entrepreneurs and small businesses. And we are investing millions more in community banks. Now, community banks, it almost speaks for itself, community banks. It's about the community. Community banks predominantly operate in overlooked and underserved communities. And they are run by people who live and work in the community that they serve. People who know firsthand the incredible potential in the community, people who understand the culture of the community, the language of the community, and people who then work every day to realize the potential of the community. So since taking office, the President and I and our administration have invested hundreds of millions of dollars in community banks that serve Native communities. Institutions in Arizona, like the Hopi Credit Association, which recently provided funds to a Native-owned coffee shop so they could invest in better kitchen equipment, new furniture, and more storage space. In partnership with communities, and in particular with Native communities, we are also addressing the climate crisis. This is something I spoke with the young leaders about before I walked in. Every year, the land your tribes have long called home have increasingly been threatened by wildfire, drought, and floods. Native peoples have served as responsible stewards of our environment for millennia. For millennia. And in order to create enduring solutions to the climate crisis, we must then rely on the knowledge and the experience of Native communities. And that is why we are investing billions of dollars to help fund Native-led, not Native-consulted, Native-led climate-resilient infrastructure projects. Like the projects you are leading here at Gila River. Projects to replenish groundwater, to build a new water pipeline to ensure reliable access to clean water, and to reduce dependence on the Colorado River. Together with Native communities, we are also working to protect the freedom to vote. In our democracy, the freedom to vote should be sacred. Every eligible voter has a fundamental right to cast a ballot and make their voice heard. But we know for Native Americans, that right has been hard fought and hard won. Native Americans were not universally granted U.S. citizenship until 1924. Even then, in many states, Jim Crow-style laws and policies denied many Native Americans access to the polls. And today we know that barriers to the ballot box still persist. Soon after taking office as Vice President, I convened a meeting on voting rights with Secretary Deb Haaland and Native American leaders, including Allie Young, a member of the Navajo Nation. Those leaders told us in no uncertain terms that the Native vote is under threat. Polling sites are too often hours away from where Native voters live. Ballots and voter information are too often not available in languages they speak. Postal service is irregular, and the use of tribal IDs has been denied. President Biden and I will continue to call on Congress to pass the Freedom to Vote Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and the Native American Voting Rights Act. Together, these bills would set national standards for voting, such as 2 weeks of early voting, drop boxes in convenient locations, same-day automatic voter registration. For example, we have heard from many Native leaders, it was part of the conversation we had in my office, that it is so difficult to even register to vote because there is not an in-person registration site in the area, or because they do not have access to high-speed internet to register online.